Hello, friends, and welcome to Take Two for this Wednesday, the 19th of September, 2018. It's hump day, and I'm Jeannie. I'm so glad to be with you. Well, I want to talk to you this morning a little bit about unwelcome visitors. This morning, just as Michael was getting ready to go out the door to go to work, to drive his bus for the senior citizens, job he loves very much, and he was on his way out the door, and he said, I better run to the restroom real quick before I go. It's a good idea to do that. So he went into the bathroom, and he came out a minute later, and he said, oh no, he says, the biggest cockroach in the world is in our bathtub. And I thought, oh no. Now, just to explain, we are not a house that is filled with all kinds of, bugs and rodents and vermin and that sort of thing. But we do occasionally get those big roaches. Now, we just started a new contract with Terminex, and so when they sprayed and treated the whole house, there is always that chance that some rogue bugs that have been hiding in corners are going to come out. And this one surely was on his way out. He was kind of like that. So we knew that the treatment was working. It's just, he's just not a very welcome guest in our house. So immediately Michael ran, and of course he got the spray and just to make sure. But that thing was just kept running and running and running, and eventually he ran out, and we don't know where he is now. But wherever he is, I'm sure he's on his back. But my point being this: nobody wants unwelcome visitors in their house. I mean, it could be anything from a cockroach to an annoying relative that shows up and doesn't want to leave. But there are a lot of people in this world who get unwelcome visitors. I remember watching one of those hoarding shows some years ago. And this man lived by himself. He kind of had a sloppy house. It wasn't much of a fancy, dwelling of any kind. And he was a little on the sloppy side. Eventually became, one of these hoarding people. But he discovered one day that he had a rat in his house. And he was a little concerned about it, but not for too long, because after a while he kind of got used to seeing this rat would show up every so often and then disappear again. And he didn't, he just kind of got used to him. Well, the next thing he knows, he's looking around and he discovers there's two rats. And he's thinking, wow, well, I don't bother them, they don't bother me. So those two rats went from being unwelcome visitors to tolerated visitors. And then before you know it, two made four and four made eight. The rest is history, because by the time the hoarding cleanup team got there was, get ready, over 500 rats in his house. He had just kind of opened the doors to them and let them stay. They were living in every nook and cranny. They chewed up every piece of furniture. They ate his curtains. You name it, these rats just completely overtook this man's house, and before you know it, they owned it. And these unwelcome visitors, these unwelcome guests, not only became tolerated, but they became actually welcome guests in his home. So I started thinking about all the things that are in my life that I've allowed in that were originally unwelcome guests over the years, but then when you get to certain situations of things happening in your life, you start welcoming them in. Now, I'm not just talking about roaches. I'm talking about maybe resentment. Whoops, sorry about that. Oops, sorry guys. Don't you love technology? I'm talking about resentment. I'm talking about other things that might have been unwelcome before and now they're welcome. Maybe bitterness, maybe unforgiveness. These are guests, visitors, who just try to make their way in. They tap at the door and say, can I come in? And you say, well, no, I would never allow bitterness and anger and hatred and unforgiveness. I would never let these visitors in my home. But then not only do they become visitors, they become guests, they become welcome, and sometimes they even become honored guests in your home. Has that happened to you? I had to examine my heart about all the little roaches I've let come into my home and into my heart. and it's not a good idea to allow them in, because like I said, you start with a little thing and it just escalates. So I started thinking about, okay, then I'm just going to have to take some spiritual spray and spray it to my heart, spray it to my mind, and not let those unwelcome visitors in anymore. Okay? So go be a blessing to somebody today. You know, you might end up being the only one who is. You may need to be the spiritual spray that goes in and helps rid their heart of unwelcome guests and visitors in their heart today, okay? And you can counteract that by being a real welcome guest, and that would be one of love, peace, joy, and all those fabulous fruits of the Spirit, okay? Now go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jeannie Sigler, Jeannessigler. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And by all means, listen to some great programming on WRMZ.org and click that listen button. And you know, I got to say this. We welcome all visitors to our radio station. So please, by all means, hit the listen button. And if you feel so inclined, another way we would love to welcome you in is by hitting that donate button to keep us on the air. Okay? All right. Well, I'm going to go check and see if that little critter finally met his demise. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to have a great Wednesday. And I hope you do too. Happy Hump Day, everybody. And go be a blessing. I love you. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.